right, off we go. A little bit about myself, just quickly. My name's Joseph Rice. You see my website there. You can find me on josephrice.co.uk. A little bit about my background. I'm 43 years of age. I know I don't look like it, but it's true. So 25 years of business expertise and experience. Currently CEO at VU Capital, CEO of JRC, which is the consulting business, and co-founder at Honeycomb. Also advisory board member and formerly head of marketing, head of e-commerce, head of sales. And in the corner, you'll see my past engagements with companies and corporates like Philips, ViewSonic, several startups in the UK, in Germany as well, corporates and so forth. Quick overview about the session. It's a strategy session, so we have 20 to 30 minutes of presentation, then we have 10 to 20 minutes roughly for all your questions. Please put all your questions in the chat. We'll get to that later, right? If you have any questions during the presentation, just hit the chat button, put it in there, and I'll go through it one by one when we're through with the presentation. Just a quick reminder, I'm going to do that every week now. So we have weekly deep dives into sales, marketing, leadership, business growth strategies, and so on. Everything will be on Meetup. Tuesday, 6:30, I think is a very good time. So every week, check the Meetup group, and we're always like 1 week, 2 weeks ahead in terms of topics. So you know exactly what you're signing up for. Grab a pen, grab a notepad. It's going to be jam-packed. I'm not rushing through it, but it's a lot of content. So make notes and make the most out of this information that you're going to hear. So to start things off, it's called From Plateau to Exponential Growth. Let's start by defining what plateau actually means. And on dictionary.com, you see that definition. A plateau is a period or state of little or no growth or decline. And that can happen to someone personally, but also in business. So the important thing here is it's a period. And per that definition, that period starts, but also can end. And this is what we're going to talk about here. How can we end the period of plateau and get to that exponential growth that we're all looking for in our businesses? And now the definition of exponential growth, to be found on Investopia.com. Exponential growth is a pattern of data that shows greater increase with passing time, creating the curve of an exponential function. And I highlight the very important where there's one word in there that's the most important, and that's the word data. Because as soon as we have data, we can measure things. And upon measuring things, we can then come up with a strategy to improve things. If we don't measure anything, we're running around like a chicken and we can't get to that exponential growth. And it's all about strategy going from the plateau to the exponential growth. So keep in mind, data is very important. So where do we start? This is my whiteboard madness, just quickly in preparation for this presentation. That's what my mind looks like from the inside. Don't panic, at least not yet. We'll go through it one by one. So to make things clear, we have a startup, or we start with a business idea, and then we hit a plateau. And what we want to do from that plateau onwards is that exponential growth that you see here. And that target, that green target, this is where we want to go with our business. And now let's start at the beginning. Every business starts with an idea, right? We get excited about an idea. We want to go to market as quickly as possible. We're excited, we're enthusiastic. And that's, I think, in the DNA of every entrepreneur, right? We have an idea. We think we can make money with it. We think we can solve a problem. We think we can help people, and off we go. But from a business point of view, from a strategy point of view, what that means is also that we don't know yet. Right, we'll figure it out as we go along. And that's why you see the startup to the plateau. It's like there is growth, but not much, because we don't have data yet, so we can improve upon. We are creating the data, right? That phase is really for creating the data and the KPIs that we need. So what are we figuring out? Well, the business model, we find out who is our customer, who is our client. We figure out marketing, we figure out sales. And in every startup, there's this focus on short-term cash flow planning, right? Not on long-term. While we're going from week to week, we're going from month to month. We try to pay the bills, we try to close the next customer or the next client. So it's very short-term driven our planning, which isn't a bad thing. That's what happens. But in order to get from off that plateau to the exponential growth, we need to do things differently than we did in the startup phase. And that's what it is. Trial, error, try again, trial, error, try again. That's how we create the sets of data that we need. And the sets of data is basically what's the business model, right? Who's our clients, and so forth. So we're trying to figure that out as quickly as possible, unless we have set aside a substantial amount of money to get through 1 or 2 years, or we have funding in the background. We really need to be careful with our resources. And again, we don't know exactly what works and what doesn't work. We'll find out. We don't have any KPIs because we are creating the data sets right now. There is no measuring or measurement of these KPIs because, if there's nothing there, we can't measure it. And most of the time it's treated as a business. It starts out as a side hustle. We have a job, and then we get this brilliant idea and we want to work for it or work towards it. And that's why I call it a hobby, because if it's a hobby, you don't care about the KPIs, you don't care about the data set, unless you want to turn it into a real business. And then all of a sudden, the plateau comes, right? We have the first customers, we figured out how to make money, we figured out the pricing, we figured out everything so far, and we have a little bit of growth, but then all of a sudden, something stops, right? So there's a plateau ahead, and we need to brace for impact. And it's quite a tremendous impact. So when we hit a plateau with any business, with any startup, what happens? Well, personally, and I've been there multiple times in my life. I've started many businesses. With the first one at the early age of 15, didn't know anything, was very naive, but it was fun. That's what you do when you're 15 years of age. So you get frustrated, right? And all of a sudden you get doubts, right? So is it worth it? Am I doing the right things? You get pressure. You put pressure on your shoulders yourself, but also friends and family. I think everybody heard the classic, when are you getting a real job? I've heard that multiple times. And I always said, well, this is my real job, or I'm turning it into a real job. And also there's a lot of struggle when it comes to money and cash flow, and bills need to be paid, and there's debt. And if you have a family, that's a lot of pressure. If you're single, if you're young, you can handle that pressure better. You live on beans on toast for, I don't know, a month or 2 or 3, that's fine. But as soon as you have a family, boy, there's a lot of pressure if things don't get off the ground quickly enough. And that's where we want to go, right? That's the exponential growth. That's in the VC and startup world also called hockey stick, because it looks somewhat like a hockey stick. And that's basically our goal. We want to have that growth in our business. And what we need for that is a strategy. Without a strategy, we can't plan, we can't set goals, we can't do anything, we can't execute on it. We need to have a solid strategy. And every plateau is an opportunity to grow, personally, business-wise. So every wall that you crash against is an opportunity if you see the positive and the good in every situation. So, of course it hurts, of course you get frustrated, but focus on the positive. Where you are right now, many people have been there before and they've gotten out of it, and they're in a better place than they were when they hit that plateau. So it's possible. If it's possible for anyone else, it's possible for you. You just need to go and ask these people who've done it before how they did it. That's very simple. That's a simple concept. So in order to go from the plateau to our very nice green target, we need to define goals, right? The green target, that's our goals. What do we want? And precisely define that. And we get to that later. From the goals backwards, we need to define our strategy. How do we reach these goals? From the strategy backwards, we need planning. We need to put a plan into place, how to execute and implement that strategy into our business, into our lives. And also the execution part, really important. Execution or plan without execution is just wishful thinking. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to start with planning. We want to take decisive and firm and directed actions towards our plan and just nail it, just go for it. So that's what we need. And it all starts with a change of attitude. And, I wrote mindset transformation. It's kind of a fancy word for basically saying that what got you to where you are right now doesn't get you to where you want to be, right? So we need to change habits. We need to change our way of thinking. We need to change how we do things, how we go about things, and how we think about things. And that basically means going from working in your business to working on your business. And although it's just one letter, the change there is absolutely tremendous, right? And the results that you can get, absolutely brilliant, right? So we go from working in your business, doing everything yourself, to working on your business. So how do we do that? Working on your business means that you work on different things other than your day-to-day tasks. You work on your vision and your mission. Sounds a little bit abstract, but if your business doesn't have a vision, or if you don't have a vision for your business where you want to be in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, maybe even 50 years' time, then you don't have any direction where to go to. And that's what we need, right? Working on your business means working on your values as well. Think of hiring people. You can hire for skills, that's absolutely fine. But more crucial than anything else is to hire for values. If you hire new people and delegate, these people need to understand what the values of your company are, the values of your brand, because that's what they need to embody and portray on the outside. You work on your positioning. Maybe you're positioned too broadly. So you need to be hyper-focused on the positioning of your brand. Who's your target audience? What services do you provide? What solutions do you provide for that target audience? And that also includes branding. All of that above needs to flow into your branding. Delegate tasks is very important as well, because you can't do everything yourself. I know we think we can do everything ourselves, and I know we think that we can do everything better than telling someone to do it our way. But as your business grows, you need to delegate. You need to have people that you can rely on, who are reliable, and you need to delegate your tasks. And in order to accomplish that, you need to sit down and write workflows. You need to write down your processes. You need to write briefings. That takes up a lot of time. And someone might say, well, if I do it myself, it's quicker. Yeah, but it's not scalable. And also, last point, you need to be able to reinvest in your business. If you can't reinvest in your business, even the smallest amount to facilitate and nurture that growth, then we're back to it's just a hobby. You need to reinvest in your business to give it the fuel and the kickoff that it needs. Now, there are two methods for exponential growth. On the top is expansion, and on the bottom is focus or specialization. And in this presentation, I focus on focus, no pun intended. Why? Because if you focus your business, if you focus your business model, if you focus your target audience, you have less distractions, you have less administration, you sharpen your position, and also it gives you the opportunity to increase your pricing and your pricing strategy, which means you make more revenue with fewer clients or customers. And also you build a high authority in a specific and defined market segment. And that's what you want, right? You want to be in the back of people's mind for solution X. I have problem X, solution ABC, that's it. I'm going to him, I'm going to her, I'm going to this brand and this brand only. And that's what you can accomplish if you really narrow it down and stay absolutely hyper-focused. Question, how? Well, we focus on one, and the one is in quotes for a very particular reason, and we have a look at that. We focus on one traffic source. Now, there are loads of traffic sources out there. There's loads of social media. There's loads of, you can go into newspaper, you can go into radio, you can go online, everywhere. But that means we are distracting our focus, right? So we need to find that one traffic source that gets us quickly to where we want to be and really dominate that traffic source. And domination is not a bad word. Domination simply means that you are the authority on that traffic source. It can be LinkedIn, it can be Facebook, it can be Instagram, it doesn't matter. And you shouldn't care either. If you're familiar with Instagram, but your target audience is on LinkedIn, for God's sake, go to LinkedIn, right? Go to where your target audience is. one lead magnet. You don't need multiple lead magnets. And depending on your business, that lead magnet can be anything, right? If you're a consultant, if you're a coach, if you're a personal trainer, if you're an educator, really doesn't matter. Create one lead magnet that people can download for free in return against their contact details. Getting back to data, we need data. We need to accumulate a lot of data. So focus on just one lead magnet. Whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that your business is doing, create one lead magnet that offers a lot of value to your target audience and offer that for free in exchange for an email, name, maybe phone number. One solution. We have a lot of businesses and a lot of business models where we have so many solutions because we try to cater to so many different target audiences. We don't need that. That's just distraction. We focus on one solution. Can we package our inventory, quote unquote, of solutions, of services or products into one solution and then basically sell that at a specific price point? Again, less distraction, more focus. And then one avatar or persona, or basically your target audience. Know who you want to talk to. Know who your target audience is. Know who your ideal clients are. And you've gone a long way from being a startup to hitting the plateau right now. So you should know who which avatar, which target audience, which ideal client gives you the best ROI, the best return on your investment. Because all of that is an investment. And that's the strategy for the exponential growth. And yeah, I know it does look like a carrot. I noticed that when I did the presentation. Nevertheless, the carrot is your savior in this regard, right? We get from the plateau to the exponential growth with a very simple and easy to implement strategy. And just to remind ourselves, when we start and throughout the whole journey, to the point where we hit the plateau, in most cases, it's forward planning, right? We start with an idea, we plan forward, right? From where we are right now, what can we do next week? What can we do in a month's time or 3 months' time? And now here's the difference in regard to the exponential growth. We need to reverse engineer instead of planning forward. So we need to start at the top and then narrow everything down and go backwards. Classical reverse engineering. I know where I want to go. Now let me have a think about how do I get there? And just a reminder, these are the steps that we need in order to reverse engineer, starting from the top: goal, strategy, planning, and execution. Let's dive a little bit deeper into goals. What we need are KPIs, key performance indicators. Because as you might have heard, what gets measured gets done. And we need goals/KPIs for every area of our business, right? We need KPIs for the financials, for the cash flow, for the impact that we have, for the customer service, for the conversion rates, and so on and so on. And it goes down and it goes across all departments or all areas of your business: sales, marketing, HR, customer service. Everything is in there. Everything where you can attach a KPI to, you need to attach a KPI to. And then from that KPI forward, set the goal. And as I said here, let me move aside here, KPIs required for every area of your business activity, from sales to customer service. That's the goal. Like, for example, your revenue goal might be 100,000 within the next 12 months. The price for your solution, can be a product, can be a service, whatever it is £500. So how many clients do you need? Well, 200. So what's the conversion rate, right? From prospect turning into a client? It might be 10%. Okay, so now we can do a little bit of math because we're collecting data and creating data right now. How many prospects do I need? And how many of these prospects ultimately convert into leads? And how many leads can we close and convert into clients? So these are all very, very important things that once you implemented them, your whole business becomes transparent. right? And you look at it just like a spider's web, right? All the dots that are connected, and you have the high level view of that. And that's very important. You need to dig deep into the data of your business, the data outside of your business as well, and accumulate all of that into your strategy. Because only then will you be able to reach the goal, to reach that growth that you're looking for. Let's go further down to the strategy. As we said, we need to look at all parts of the business, and that could be, for example, sales, marketing, accounting, customer service, HR, or as it's now called, HCM, which stands for Human Capital Management. So we're all capital now, which is good to know, right? Whatever it is that you have in your business or through external third parties, accounting, for example, you need to put all of that together in your strategy. And every area of your business needs a tailored strategy that is integrated into your overall business growth strategy. So we have actually more than one strategies. So what does that mean? Okay, we have sales, for example. Sales as a department, as an area of your business, needs a strategy, right? And you take that sales strategy and you put it in the big pot of your overall strategy. Same goes for marketing. What do you do with marketing? How do you generate leads? Where do they come from? Content strategy and so forth. That's another strategy that needs to be implemented into the overall strategy. And marketing, for example, as I just said, lead generation, lead magnets, landing pages, lead nurturing sequences, email automation, social media, and so on, concise and consistent branding voice, content and content delivery, ads, and so forth. All of that needs a very good thinking, and you need to break that down into the strategy plan, because only when you dig really deep into the details will you be able to get the results and the outcome that you're looking for. If you don't do any of that, then we're back at the plateau, or even before the plateau, and we'll never get off that bloody thing. Sales and marketing in corporates, I've seen it more than once. They really hate each other, but they should embrace each other, because only when sales and marketing play together, that's where the revenue is. That's where the cash really is. So in terms of sales, what's the strategy here? What does the takeover of the leads from marketing look like, right? Marketing creates leads, and then at a certain point in time, sales needs to take over. How does that work, right? What's the process? What's the strategy? Sending out and signing off proposals, closing the sale, training salespeople, incentives, salary structure, and so on. All of that needs to come into your sales strategy as well, and then implement that into the overall strategy. Accounting, finances, again, ask yourself these questions and find the answer to how do I want to solve this, right? Who sends out invoices? What happens with recurring invoices? When do I know when invoices are paid? What about overdue invoices, payment reminders, salaries, and so on? Just have a look at that and come up with answers, because that's what your business is all about. That's what you do when you work on your business instead of in your business. E-commerce, that's quite a funny one, because it's almost all in one, right? You have your sales, you have your marketing, you have your accounting and customer service all in one. And I think it deserves an extra presentation just on e-commerce, because it's a very fascinating sector. But again, you need to ask yourself these questions, and you need to find answers for these questions. Exponential growth requires an eye for details and an eye for the big picture. So good thing that we have two eyes, one for the details, which is basically the individual areas, and one for the big picture, the overall business strategy, right? We need to juggle both. Let's have a look at planning. Well, basically, every strategy needs planning. That means we're working backwards from the goals to strategy to planning. And every area of your business needs to put the strategy into an actionable plan, right? It's not enough to come up with a strategy. We need to create a plan based on the strategy, right? And that includes the teams, the team leads, team members, depends on how big your business is. Maybe you have people employed, maybe you can outsource it, or you work with freelancers, but all of these little details, that needs to be on your plate. And the result is you have a plan with responsibilities, with goals, with KPIs, with timelines, and that equals data. Now you're creating data. And as long as you have data, or as soon as you have data, you can make sophisticated decisions. And that's very, very important and crucial. Execution part, the fun part. Well, what do we need to do? Well, we need to know what are our tasks on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. Who's responsible for what? And what does that person need or that team need in order to execute? What, the resources? Where are complementary areas? Where can we build teams and work together? Who else needs to be involved? External partners, third parties, and so on. The reporting is very important. Who's reporting to who? Are there line managers? Is there a team lead? Or is everybody reporting to you? Or do you have a person sitting underneath you for the reporting so you can, again, focus on what's important and work on your business? But all of that basically needs to be put into a process chart flow. And so you know exactly what the process looks like. And then you can delegate again when you hire more people. And then, hopefully, the mission is accomplished. We've gone from startup, we've hit a plateau, and then we have that exponential growth. And that, in all shortness and briefness, was the foundation of how you can go from plateau to exponential growth. I know it's been a lot, but it's all very valid and very important points that you need to consider in order to get off of that plateau and have that really, really high growth and grow your business like crazy. Now, before I go to the questions, just a couple of goodies for you. If you go to my website, josephrice.co.uk, there's loads and loads of free downloads. We've got books, we've got tasks and daily planners. We've got that presentation as a white paper, and we are touching sales in 2 weeks' time. So you'll find a cheat sheet of qualifying questions that you should be asking your clients or customers in person or on a call in order to close them. Also, we have an exclusive LinkedIn group that we just started and set up today. I'm going to send you the link on email, or if you just search for that particular group on LinkedIn, you should find it. It's searchable. So everybody who participates in one of these strategy sessions, one or more of these strategy sessions, has access to that group where we share more insights and detailed insights about sales, marketing, leadership, business growth, and so on. Quick outlook on what's coming up next week. Lead generation basics. Same setup. It's a strategy session. Just sit back, enjoy, grab a pen and paper and make loads and loads of notes, hopefully. And on the 15th of June, we have 3 methodologies to qualify your leads. There are 3 basic methodologies. That's basically the standard in every sales organization to really qualify leads. And it makes you stop wasting your time talking to people and prospects who ultimately would never buy from you. And that's it. Let me have a look in the chat. How long should we be doing short-term cash flow planning? I think it results from a necessity, right? So you can't really, when you start out, you can't really say, okay, in 12 months time, we have that revenue and that cash flow. So it's basically you're moving forward week by week and month by month. Ideally, to give you a certain amount of stability, you should have a 3 months plan, right? A monthly plan is definitely not enough. You need to forecast the cash flow for at least 3 months. That's ideal, because what you don't want in the end is to end up at the end of June, for example, not knowing how much money is coming in July. So plan it as thoroughly as you can with what you have and where you are right now, and as far in the future as possible, because you don't want to sit at your table or on your couch one night and not knowing where the next money is coming from. Next question, I take execution without planning. How can I change this? Well, take 2 steps back. Sometimes in order to move forward, we need to take a step back or 2 steps back. Taking action is as important as planning, but without a plan, what are you executing? What are your actions? Where are your actions directed to, right? It's like, just hope for the best. We can't do that, right? So what you should be doing is just sit down, take a deep breath, half an hour, go back to planning, right? Go back to your goals. What are your goals? And then work, as we just discussed today, work backwards. And then the execution is always the last part. And I know it's kind of exciting to get into action and, just move forward and do social media posts. But if you don't have a plan of what you're doing and you don't have a destination, i.e. a goal, then anything you do would be good, but that's not the case, right? The good things that you do gets you closer to the goals, right? And only these things, and everything else, just ignore it, avoid it, don't do it. So just take 1 or 2 steps back. It doesn't mean that you settle down or you're going back. Now, sometimes we just need to take a step back to think. Thinking is very important. That's part of working on your business. It's even more important than taking action, because taking action is the easy part, right? That's why most people start with the action, because it's easy. They don't have to think. What are the examples of key goals? Well, everything within your business and finances, financial goals are key goals, right? What's my revenue in 6 months' time, in 12 months' time? What's my customer satisfaction rate? Right? How many of my customers are repeated customers? How happy are they with my services? So all of these things, every aspect of your business, everywhere where you have a touch point with your customers, a touch point to the outside world, meaning you are communicating to someone on whatever channel. I think these are the key goals. And ultimately, as a business owner, you just want to increase the revenue. You want to increase the margins. You want to decrease the costs, right? So that could be a goal, decreasing the costs, making the business and the processes more efficient, which then in return improves your margin. How can you teach staff values of company without discriminating? Don't think that there's any discrimination in values, right? You just communicate it. You just sit down and say, these are my values. And most of the time, these values come from your personal values. If it's your brand, your company, then automatically you portray and put your values into that business and that brand. There's nothing to do with discrimination. Just be open and transparent about it. Our values are X, Y, Z. And you don't really need to train your staff. If you put that on your website and integrate that in your marketing plan and in your HR plan, you will automatically attract the right people who are in alignment with your values. So pretty simple. What stage of your business should you start working on rather than in your business? The moment you feel you're stuck, the moment you feel for the past weeks, the past maybe 2 months, 3 months, there's been a stagnation. Also a good indicator is, are you doing everything yourself? If so, and if you have money to reinvest in your business, then you really need to make that switch. Because you are not scalable. Your time is not scalable. You as a resource is not scalable, right? So as soon as you make that switch, you free up your own resources because you delegate, you bring new people in, and that is what nurtures that growth. What percentage of cash flow should be reinvested each month? It depends on where you want to be. For example, you can, let's say 100,000, we had that example in 12 months time. It can be $1 million, it really doesn't matter. I take 100,000 because it's a round number and I like simple things. So it depends on what you are willing to invest, what you think is a reasonable amount, but also what makes sense, right? You wouldn't spend £1 million on a dress or on a rug. So it needs to be in relation to your goal. It can be 10%, for example. It can be 20% of the overall amount. So let's say 100,000. My revenue should be 100,000 or 100,000 more by the end of 12 months. So I'm willing to invest overall anywhere between 10 and 20%, maybe even 30% if your cash flow allows for it. So that would be 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand. It needs to be in relation. You can't have a big goal on a small budget, on a small investment. It needs to be leveled. What templates can be used? Well, basically, you don't necessarily need templates. The template should really be that reverse engineering that we just talked about, right? Start from your goal, then draft the plan and then get into the execution stage. In terms of content creation, social media, marketing in general, have a calendar, have functioning processes. Every business is different. Every approach is different. Every business model is different. Your business is very unique, and so should the strategy be. So it needs to be tailored to your business, also to your personality. You know, are you more risk averse, or are you ready to take more risk? It really needs to be tailored to your business. Would you find hiring a data analyst or investing your own time to get data more efficient? You should, at a certain point in time, if and when the business is big enough, you need to hire people who do that all day long. To start with, you need to have an understanding of data. You need to have an understanding of technology, right? Google Analytics, or things like that. What's the conversion rate? What's the website traffic, and so on. So you should have at least a high-level understanding of how data works, of how you collect data, and what this data of yours tells you, and how you can draw conclusions in order to make decisions. Once you're big enough, it's absolutely okay to hire someone, ideally in marketing and sales, to really crunch the numbers, especially when it's about finances. So definitely would recommend hiring an accountant as soon as you can afford it and the business cash flow allows for it. One solution, does that mean to focus on one of your services and products? Yes and no. It can also mean that you package more than one solution, service, or product into one, right? So for example, you could be a consultant and you do the consulting part, but you can also, for example, create a product or create content or create social media. So you can basically package all of that ultimately you have one complementary product. But it should be focused as such that if you have an inventory of products and services, you need to take care of this inventory. You need to keep it updated. And sometimes, you have 10 things in your inventory, but only one or two services or products are the ones who really drive the revenue. So what I would say is get rid of the other 8 and focus on these 2 and really push that forward. How do you know if your goals are realistic to your business? Will Smith once said, being realistic is the most common road to mediocrity. I agree with him. In order to have that growth, and I think that's in every entrepreneur's DNA, you gotta be crazy, you gotta be weird, and you gotta be unrealistic. However, from the business point of view, if your revenue is, let's say, 50,000, and your goal for the next 12 months would be, 5 million, that's slightly unrealistic. However, there are ways to figure that out. So it should be, I always think in terms of what goals are achievable. So if I achieve it, I feel good about it. And if I don't achieve them, make them as such that even if you don't achieve them, you have the success in the process. Right? Maybe it's not in 12 months' time, maybe it's not in 18 months' time, but ultimately you will get there. So it's kind of a balancing act between the entrepreneur in you and the business reality. Also take into account what's the market size, what's the global market size, what's the regional market size, how many potential clients are there. That also determines your goals, right? If you want to make 10 million, but the market size is only 2, well, that's slightly unrealistic unless you have an expansion strategy in the background. So there are different things that you can take into account. How can we automate some of those strategies? Well, there are a lot of tools and technologies out there who help you in terms of content creation, in terms of data collecting and analyzing, Google Analytics, for example. So there are loads and loads of tools that will help you to automate some of these strategies, because ultimately the more you automate with a very solid process in the background, the more scalable it will be, right? As soon as you have manual work in there, manual work is never scalable, right? You can't kind of draw an extra hour out of your employees. Impossible. But if you automate it or automate great parts of the workload, then that frees up time for administration and managing all of that. and that gives you the scalability that you ultimately want and ultimately need. So yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of automating where possible, and have an eye on that on the technology side and the analytics side. Where can we find resources to help us create these strategies? Well, the first resource I would say is our strategy sessions. We do that every week. I do listen to feedback. So if you want a particular topic to be discussed, you can definitely take that back and see how and when we can put that in. But basically, this is what this meetup group is all about. It's all about giving you the tools and the knowledge and the expertise to create those strategies, to implement these strategies, but also then to execute these strategies. As I said, every business is different. And what we do here in these sessions is to give you a high-level view of what you can take and then implement and adapt to your business. And of course, if you need consulting or help or advice, that's what we do. Because in most cases, especially when we're talking about larger businesses and more complex organizations, that what we discussed today can't be done in one day. It's an ongoing project. But basically, that would be my answer to that. We are the resource. We are your resource. That's why we do all of that. And that's why I put out all the content that we do. I have a blog on my website as well, where we post I think 2-3 times a week, going into details and just adding value as much as we can for people who are in a similar situation, for businesses who are in a similar situation, who just want to have that knowledge and that insight to what we do on a daily basis with other companies.